You're struggling. We're going to call this work session to order. Thanks everybody for being here. Let's make sure our cell phones are silent and let's stand for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. Thanks everybody for being here. Today we are going to look at the public health budget and the facilities budget. Turn it over to staff.
Awesome. Well, might as well go in order as previously devised. We're ready to roll, Sarah and Leah.
Thank
you. Just so that like.
I know. And there should be two pieces to both of them, right?
So Sarah's handing out two items. One is the budget and then one is our 2025 annual report. It might have some information that might be useful during the discussion as well. So if we look at the 2027 budget, expenses are hold from 26 to 27 at a 3%, which is expected. We did have some changes in some other categories. We did have to put 38,200 in our non-capital inventory. It's a grant covered expense that we have with the infrastructure innovation grant from the state. And that we have placed in there. It is a grant covered expense. Mileage and lodging was adjusted to reflect with the SHIP grant budget in it. So it is higher than the previous year's SHIP, but that is because that is what is grant covered in the SHIP grant as well. And as we did decrease due to non-utilization of those categories. If we look at the revenue, we are facing some significant changes. We are losing the CDC grant for the year 2027. We won't have the COVID grant. And we have two grants, the innovation grant and the South Country reinvestment grant. Both of those will only have enough money in 2027 to get us partway through the year. So it's a significant loss of 4 incomes that we had previously.
Those are listed on the
Yeah, the back of the sheet, I just have to see that.
What were you doing prior to the COVID money?
tax levy.
Tax levy?
Most of that was, so the thing we used the COVID, what we used the COVID grant for was two primary things. And one of them is our mental health supports work, which was new. And so some of that happened after our first hire for the planner educator. So the planner educator position was a position that was grant funded. When COVID money came along, that helped supplement that work. And so it made that grant from the state, the impact of it last longer. So that's a piece of that. Now we've restructured some of that work so that that grant, that money is from the state is covering that position again, but we were then able to utilize some of that planner educator tag money from the state to fund other positions. So displacement of funds. Also our grant, COVID grant paid a lot of administrative costs that we often find are non-reimbursable from our grant sources. They can answer ads on that. Do you want me to do that one more time?
No, I got it. I'm just.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
I have a question about that non-capital grant covered expense of 38,200. Is that
Where is that?
the
64.
Back to the sheet.
yeah
64. 64.
64 to 80? Is that is that offset on the revenue side? with, because that will be reimbursed.
Correct.
Is that the record system?
Yes, that's a placeholder for technology for, should we need additional supports for that CHP work across the 2 counties.
To try to
Where
get
does that,
uniform.
where does that revenue show up?
It shows up in the, it'd be state funds.
Under general state funds?
Yes, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Wait for questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Otherwise, we can
Well-
show you some things on the annual report that might be helpful, but I don't wanna, I don't, we have a lot of things on our sheets and I don't wanna jump in when you're not prepared.
Yes, go ahead.
Can you go over again, just trying to look at these outliers?
Yep.
Miscellaneous revenue. Now, you said some of that is the loss of COVID money, right? But is that the third line in the revenue, miscellaneous revenue? We're losing.
Yeah, yep.
50,000.
Well, COVID would have fallen over, was it state?
It would have been a state or a federal fund for COVID, so miscellaneous revenues is a different revenue stream.
So, yeah, why is there such a difference there?
Just bringing up my worksheet so I can answer that question.
Sure.
Miscellaneous revenue, what we budget for in that category is what we are gonna get back from the sewer for their portion of the MCIT property casualty payment. What we anticipate getting back from the sewer for any opioid work that our shared staff does. And then, our Curvy grant, which did, I think slightly increased 2,500, again, stayed about the same, but, our Curvy grant that we get reimbursed from Faribault Martin.
It's a work, it's a grant through the state, another innovation grant, but it's a regional grant. And they budget money for our staff to participate at a minimal level in that regional work. So those are the revenues that are included in that.
And so where are we losing, or what's changing that's increasing that so much?
It's increasing.
Yeah, because that's down almost 150.
It might have been just a.
Those things you named off seem fairly.
Yep, yeah,
constant.
I know I'm following you.
Yep.
Okay. That's three. Okay, so let's go. You put them both in. Sure, should grant go there. So it was a different one. You've come up with a good question. I'm not quite sure how the work is.
There's a reason for it. I just have not located it yet.
It's fine.
So keep looking while we're. Yes,
You have 2 positions technically that are open right now.
yes.
Is there a way that those 2 positions could melt into that group without having to hire?
No. So the 2 positions that are open are, one's our environmental health position, which is our EHS certification for food, beverage, and lodging inspections. And the second position that's open and has actually been filled at this time, we just haven't got them in-house, is our community health educator planner position. The skill sets are really different. The educator, they're both, the community health educator planner is a shared position between the 2 counties, previously Collins' position. That's a position that's going to be doing outreach for mental health and substance use awareness, doing partnership work. Environmental health is much more concrete sequential work where you're taking a code and you're applying it to a situation and educating people on how to fit into that framework. So that's a piece to it. Additionally, there's some promises we've made across the county line as to how much of our share we're going to be putting into that partnership with Waseca County. So there's some implications there. We did, what you do not see in your budget is a full-time FTE for senior services. That was a reduction that we made this year that is continuing on into next year. So we had a vacancy in senior services that we are not filling. And that FTE has been subtracted from the 27 budget.
Are the two positions that are open right now, are they shared with the sewer?
The one is shared and the other is in that same branch, but it is not currently a shared position in the same way. There's certainly some conversations that we're having about how we could better utilize that FTE across both counties. Primarily because the septic systems used to be funded in there and we did not receive our healthy housing grant to help pay for the costs that we're receiving from South Country Reinvestment Grant. So we do that through 6 months. We have a way of funding that healthy housing work. And then we're going to be looking for resources for that revenue.
So the community health worker, is that person generally, is that kind of a seasonal thing with the different, or is that just?
Community health worker is Mariana. Mariana does work for our family health unit and our senior services unit, primarily focused on helping our population that is English as a second language or non-English speaking. So that's a completely different branch.
Pictures on the sheet there.
Yeah, no, that's all good. That's why we gave them to you, because we know how this, again, we're a kind of complicated department and we're trying to make it as straightforward as it can be, but it's not straightforward.
Madam Chair.
Yes,
Sir, is it possible that in 451, it still has that additional senior position?
Melissa tells us she's been removed.
Right, it is in Munis, and that's why I'm asking, because Munis is like $75,000 less than.
Okay, and then I did not get the updated units. I didn't realize it had been changed.
Yeah, I just wanted
That
to.
would be on you. Thank
That's
you.
what- They're gonna look at some, just, or see a discrepancy or something. I can see you queuing up the question.
It's supposed to be done, but we must have pulled our numbers previous to Melissa.
From what I understood, yeah, it had been gone when I pulled my numbers. So that's
Just wanted
Is this
to.
accurate or is theirs accurate? Is it the sub?
The budget summary is accurate.
Yes, yep, go with that.
So the increase is 7% in change, not the 15 that you see.
Yay. That makes me feel better too, because I'm like, holy cow, that stuff really costs us.
So
Thank you.
that is in that 451 column, the general public health, the very first one, and the salaries and wages up at the top. That number can go down by 75,000. 75,208 specifically.
Thanks, Michael.
Yes, thank you.
All the other ones look to be identical to Munis one. I was just quickly.
Just that one,
man.
that one was. Just the important one.
The big one.
that's what happens when you do your homework too early.
So actually, yeah, so then instead of a 3% increase in salaries and benefits, it'll be a decrease because of that.
Yeah, yes, that
Yeah.
decrease even with the COLA adjustments. .19% is the actual effective increase, proposed increase from 2026 to 2027.
That makes some sense.
Touching in anything in the annual report?
What I did want to just make sure you understand so that when you take it home and are looking at it before bed, if you look at the big pie charts, just want to make sure that it's clear that the other category is that bar next to it. And so to give you a sense of really how complex our funding and reimbursement process is, most of the things in that bar, if not all, are grants that we then have to get reimbursed by the state. So there's a process for planning the grant, we have to create a work plan, we have to create a budget. Then we are not able to get reimbursed for that until we have expended the resource and have billed it back to the grant. So there's as you're well aware, there's a delay in that process, which makes our planning even more challenging this time of year. We do know that our grants are mostly in and are staying the same, but there's a couple of outliers that shouldn't create any large change. But we do have a couple that don't really tell us until well into your budget planning process. And so you can see too that there's a significant difference in each of the branches for the levy impacts. So in the support staff and admin, just realize Leah and I sit in the support staff and admin category. So that's going to be why you see such a large impact to levy. That's our front desk's folks. And like I said, Leah and I, and so we do what we can. And that's also why there's like all these little teeny tiny bars, because when Leah touches a grant to do reimbursement, she codes it to the grant and we bill for the grant. When I do a work plan or a budget, or I do some reporting, we code it to the grant, we bill back for the grant, but it's not significant impact to the budget.
So the majority of you guys is levy impact, because you can only pull so much grant for what you guys do.
Yep.
Yeah, because you're not working directly with people.
Correct.
And some of the grants don't allow us to even budget time.
Sure.
There was some discussion yesterday at the CHB Advisory Committee and a meeting we quickly grabbed together afterwards that we'll be doing some follow-up on, but part of that discussion is the potential of taking that CHS administrative work and putting it into Waseca County for some portion of a year, or a portion of a time frame. For a time frame, and then having some kind of a back and forth on that particular role. I want you to realize that that does have a budget impact. That is time that we bill to the local public health grant. And it's about 1/10 of my time in a normal year. It's been more because we have the infrastructure grant that I've been spending time in. But it's again, it is a piece to the pie. Some of that time spent in the back and forth as just the public health director would still be reimbursable. So I don't know that would be a huge difference, but there will be some change.
I would say this is a perfect example of graded funding.
I was just gonna say that,
Yes.
that you can see the work we have to put in to make that graded funding.
Yeah. Any other questions for Sarah and Leah?
Did we ever, I missed
Did you
it.
find?
I am gonna have to get back to you on that. Unfortunately, my worksheet does not have the
Okay,
information that I'm looking for, so.
okay, that's fine, thank you.
And it was a budgeted number, not necessarily an actualized number, so we'll figure that part out too.
Oh, what?
It was a budgeted number and not an actualized number, so that might be a piece of the puzzle.
Okay,
So we'll look and see.
okay.
Any other questions for Sarah and Leah? Go ahead.
I'm sorry, we'll review the 7.19% increase is about $60,000. And that is basically from COVID dollars,
It's a combination.
a combination.
COVID, CDC, only having partial of the South Country and a partial of the innovation.
Just wanted to make sure I heard that right. Okay, thank you.
Anything else for these guys? If not, at this point, you're gonna get us some additional information.
Yeah.
Which will be awesome. Thanks for the work, and I appreciate this.
Yeah.
If you could you just send that to me? That's the answer to the question.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yep.
Thank you very much.
Awesome.
Mr. Confer.
All right, Brian, you're up.
Morning.
Good morning.
I don't have any special bars and graphs on pieces of paper.
Your funding is a little more straightforward than theirs.
Right. Exactly. Hopefully it reduces the questions. So basically, I had some stuff in my budget that we have removed and reduced off of the budget line. There was a special assessment tax for the street project. That was $83,533.73. We will be paying out of 2026. And then that was in the 111.
Right?
Yes,
That change you just mentioned, is that not in here then? Is that a
Correct.
recent change?
it was removed.
Just recently, so it's not in this yet.
Correct.
Talking about the special assessment specifically?
Yes.
So anything that, at least for our last conversation, that would have been originally budgeted in 2027 would have been removed and reflected in what you're seeing.
So these should be up-to-date numbers.
Unless this was just like within the last couple of days we're talking about. But what Brian was explaining, and we talked a little bit about this at the board presentation when he brought some of those advanced purchases in 2026. Same conversation. So what he had originally built into the budget for 2027, we pulled back out of 2027 to purchase and pay for it in 2026. So it's referring to the implied savings there in 2027, but still what you're looking at in summary is accurate as of today.
Okay.
And then in the fund 117, refunds and reimbursements. That was basically taken out of the lease for the Mid Prairie, so there was no funds put into that one. It was basically a maintenance reimbursement for Mid Prairie. I believe it was added into the lease itself.
And so we're taking that out because that brings uniformity between what we do with Dodge and between Dodge and Waseca. Is that what I'm thinking?
We reflect the lease revenue right within the bond funds. It's a direct offset to
Okay.
the bond expenses.
Okay.
So that's where it's been reflected. So it hasn't been reflected in facilities for a while at this point, but we're just, yeah, he's calling out the specific accounts that exist because they exist, but we have a lot of placeholder board codes or accounts within our system that may or may not get any action in them in a particular year based upon the budgetary need or program. So he's got some accounts, and Brian's probably got more than most because we technically have a separate board code for all of our various buildings to track the different maintenance costs. So the line you see, unless you have your printout from our last meeting of what I have on the screen here, where it has all of those individual accounts and board codes broken out separately, that's what he's referring to. So when he's talking about 111, vehicle 111.
Yep.
And et cetera. Hopefully that made sense, but I have to walk through it again if it didn't.
Nope, I get it. All right, other questions at this time? Otherwise, go ahead, Brian.
Okay. So in fund 01119, refunds and reimbursements. It's basically a fund that community corrections reimburses me for the fleet use and the gas use driving the fleet cars. Roughly around $3,000. And then, the 01-119-6260 professional and technical services. That is for the, new fleet GPS services on the fleet, similar to what the sheriff has. We added that actually last year. Paid for it without the funds in there. This year I put the funds into it, so we have the funds allocated for it. That's $3,700. The one I haven't talked to Michael about yet, the 01-119-6563. Tires, tubes and batteries, I had a budgeted of $4,000 in there. And we can keep that in there if we want, or we can take $2,000 on that we're going to do this year. So the 65, 63 and the 119 could drop to $2,000. Let's see. Onto the parks, the 01-521-6340 rentals and service agreements. So there's $6,000 in there. That's basically servicing the new bathrooms, and then an unknown internet cost for when the internet gets hooked up to Courthouse Park. There's gonna be, I kind of went off the base of what we were paying now, which was roughly around a little over $100 a month for the internet service that we have now. So I just kind of based that cost off of that and added that to a 12-month cycle. That's what the $6,000 is for.
Madam Chair, can I back up for a
Please
second?
do.
Brian, the tire tubes and batteries, I'm assuming based upon the notes from the first time we went through this, you were looking to see if the tires were good enough to last through the winter, and if they were not, that's the expense you're talking about incurring this year?
Correct.
Okay, so we're spending the $2,000 this year because the tires aren't good enough to last through the winter.
Correct. And I have the funds in there to do it.
Right. Thank you.
Then we jump to 01-521-6502, which is the aggregate. I had, I believe it was $20,000 in there. We dropped it down to 10 because we fixed the road this year. Going back to the campsites, at Courthouse Park.
Saw that on our road tour.
Sorry.
We saw that on our road tour.
Okay. 01-521-6602, ground improvements. Basically, we're getting rid of the contract with the mosquito spraying. Because we ended up purchasing our own sprayer, so this will cover the chemicals for the spraying, and then anticipated water lines to the camper sites that we have installed in the back. So each site individually will have a water hookup versus just one main water line to basically service any camper that will be out there. 01-521-6660 capital assets. This is for a new tracker and grapple attachment to replace our old 870 John Deere that was purchased in '95. The gaskets and seals are starting to go out on that tractor itself. So we're just looking to replace that tractor and get us something a little easier to work with and not be working on so much. I'm trying to save money, not fixing the major issue that's going on with it right now.
How how many hours are on that truck? You know,
I knew you were gonna ask that. I have no idea. There's quite a few. It's been used way back when the highway had the parks. And then everything got transferred
okay,
over. It's been around a while. It's served its purpose. So we got, leave it at head gasket seals. It smokes pretty bad. We haven't seen any liquid, any oils yet, but I have a feeling that might be coming. Would it be
so
sold?
what do you have budgeted for that? Are you gonna trade it or are you gonna try to?
The intention was not to trade it, maybe try and sell it. So I had budgeted $45,200. And that is for the meat tractor and the gravel bucket. From, I got 3 estimates. The second one was the Northland Peloton. Which,
Kubota?
what's that?
Was it a Kubota or what?
I believe so.
New Holland was,
It was New Holland, yes, thank you. Yeah. Any questions on that?
So and that's the cost of the tractor then?
The tractor and the gravel attachment.
yeah, the only thing in that account, the 45,200 is strictly that New Holland Boomer tractor and the gravel attachment.
So then the sale of that tractor or the trade in value or whatever, does that offset capital assets or where does that run?
I do not believe he intends or has it offset, I should say. No, he doesn't have it offset in terms of the revenues.
Yeah, right, but what yeah, because he wasn't sure what they were.
Right.
When that happens, then kind of like highway, does that go back into the capital fund for future purchases or?
No, we don't assign it from an equipment standpoint for parks or anything. So if it was sold, it would end up in that 5859 account within the year's activity itself and ultimately be captured within the general fund. So it would be reserved somewhere in an assigned fund.
Sure, okay.
I had no intention of putting it in any reserve fund. Basically just going back to whether we sell it or trade it in, back to the general.
Just helps us to know where that's gonna be captured.
The one exception to that from parks is the sale of land. And that's the action and direction we took from this board a few years ago. So those are monies that are captured and reinvested back into this. So that has been part of the conversation and may still be the conclusion because we do have some funds in that account thus far. So there is potential to offset even the tractor piece. So I just want to plant that seed for future change. We're waiting to also see what happened with our most recent posted properties. And those are, one is taken care of at this point, but one is still lingering. So that's, if you look up in that 5910, that is the intended purpose now. So you see the negative 45.2 up here. That is just directly offsetting what's in capital assets right now.
Okay.
I don't expect that to change, just letting you know that that's the methodology presently. And that is directly coming from that land sale account.
Other questions for Brian?
Right.
Go ahead, sir.
Have you've only gotten one bid for that tractor? Or
No, we've got two or three bids. One was Owatonna, the other one was Smith Mill, and the third one,
Arnold's and Mankato?
it was in Mankato, but I can't remember which one it was. without having, I think, but I know the two closest were Owatonna and Smith Mill.
What size, what's that? 120. 120.
Not very big.
Well, similar to the counties,
Actually, it's a little bit,
I mean, the highway departments.
I don't know what the size of the highway department is.
Must be smaller.
I was just curious.
I have a feeling it's probably a little bit smaller. It's a little bit bigger than the John Deere we have.
Okay. The Boomer series is described as compact tractors, so not all that big, just by definition.
That one from the highway, that was $100,000 tractor, wasn't
I don't remember.
it? I think so.
I think so, yes.
Anything else for Brian? Go ahead.
I got a question on the internet out at Courthouse Park. Where are we running that to out there and why?
So the internet will be running to the garage that is existing out there. And that's where we have all of our communication now. IT has all their equipment out there inside. And the internet will, at this point, serve the cameras that are out there. And then if we decide to put in the interpretive center or whatever out there, it'll also be able to be used in that as well for schooling, training, anything that we want in there.
The box and the equipment had been in the basement of that home forever, so we just moved everything over to the shed when that was removed.
So the internet lines, the new ones, the new fiber per se, have been ran all the way to the exterior of the garage at this point. When they are coming to do the last and final. I know it's supposed to be this year, I just don't know at what time. I thought it was after the landfill, but that's been done for a while. I believe, but it hasn't happened at Courthouse Park yet.
They have 500 and some drops that they're doing here. Since the beginning of the summer to the end of the summer. And I know they're using BevCom employees directly to do that. And they're only able to do like 8 a day. So not surprisingly that, it's going in phases.
I do know there's a different person for each one, because I saw the guy that was at the post in the ditch. And I'm like, oh, you going to the drive? No, I don't do that part.
That's,
So then I saw the guy at the garage hooking it up, and I'm like, so it's getting connected inside? No, I just bring it this far.
yeah.
Another person does that.
Yeah, they only allow BevCom employees to come into homes to do it. So,
Did that change?
no,
That didn't? Sure.
I'm pretty sure. I mean, I know the plan was that, because they had contract employees to do the trunk fiber and contract employees digging up to houses.
To the house.
Yes.
Okay.
And then BevCom employees, I think we're gonna be the ones in the houses. Because obviously they want their employees interacting with their new customers.
Okay.
I
Right,
that
guess,
was the
yeah.
plan last time,
You just got some poor publicity with the contractor that was bringing it up to the house.
Oh,
And, but I talked to the constituent and, came out and talked to him and was gonna deal with that contract.
I'm sure they were because those contractors work for BevCom too. So BevCom has the responsibility for those contractors. Whether it's their workers or the contractors, that's the right place to go.
Yeah, so the constituent was happy with how it was handled.
Good. I'm glad that BevCom is doing what they said they do. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Sorry, we got off on the rabbit track. Any other questions for Brian? Okay.
I believe one last final was I had 45,000 in, the 25,521,6260. for architectural services. And we have removed that for the 2027 budget, anticipated cost from funds. Get them services done. That it would be to continue on the courthouse drawings from after the vote.
So Fund 11, Brian also manages, that's kind of our building improvement account historically. So there were two things sitting in there, the 45,000 placement already that you mentioned for anticipated courthouse Annie, which we can push out. And there was the $30,000 placeholder for building improvements, which is the schoolhouse building on the fairgrounds property. That was mentioned as a byproduct in part of the sheriff's presentation, but the costs are sitting in Fund 11. So if you are looking at your budget summary sheet, going down, you'll notice that there's nothing there. There is something there, but this is a reflection of what's impacting the levy. So everything that is in Fund 11, which even as of now is still $75,000, is being offset by $75,000 using reserve funds. So that 75,000 will go down to 30,000. In either case, it's not going to impact the levy. It will still be offset, but the offset will be less than it is presently. So again, if you look at that sheet from the one that's on the screen, that 3 or something, the last time we got together, you'll see each of those. See the 75 and the 75 in there. I can just go there. Instead of being kind of that. Yeah. So you see the professional technical services, the 45,000, that's what Brian was referencing. For aiming 30,000, that's our schoolhouse transfer in of 75. So the net impact there being 0. It's not going to touch the levy, but we are going to scrub out this 45. So it's not going to change your summary at all. Number is still accurate, but internal workings will go down.
That's all I have.
Go ahead, sir.
Michael mentioned land sales. Do we have, how many are we had 2 and we got rid of 1, correct? There's 1 looming out there now yet? Where's that is the Manti one, correct?
So we got no bids on it even after going in 50%. Then the DNR, in the process of that, the DNR was requesting more time, and I said, at least at this time, I can't do the state funding. It takes them a lot to get approved for state funding. So they asked if they could look into it if we don't get any bids. So once we got no bids, I recontacted the DNR, and they are looking into putting a bid in on it for that property, but no less than what the board approved for a minimum bid. How long that process will take,
And the minimum bid was 30,000, correct?
30 or 35.
30 or 35,
I don't recall.
So I was just curious, would the board really want the DNR to buy it for in the minimum bid, or would we want it to go to a constituent? Or was the only constituent that would offer maybe the same, but a little bit less, and then we would get actual tax dollars coming back?
Well, they actually could have for it for the same amount, but we got no bid on it. I was surprised. You know, that we didn't. I thought for sure we would this time, but
And this was the second go around, the third one. Do we even want to sell it? I thought the main reason for selling our land was to get tax money. And if we offer it to the DNR,
Then we got nothing.
then we get nothing. So we're better off just keeping it ourselves.
Or would you take a slightly lower bid?
We'd have to go by what the regulations are on that.
at this point in time, the board can decipher what they want to take for it. After this third round, actually, the third round came, the board decided what they would, take as a minimum bid for the assessor's, evaluation of the property, which came down to 50%.
So just stepping through the process again, quick educational moment for all of us, just to refresh where we've been. All of these are landlocked parcels, statutorily defined irregular parcels. So they color outside the lines and what a normal sale procedure looks like. These do not have to be advertised widely. They can be directly solicited to adjacent landowners because statute understands the conflict of selling a land to someone else that does not have legal access to it. So that's the process we're in. In that process, we have some steps that we have to go through. The first one is to advertise it at what statute refers to as fair market value. That term doesn't exist in anything we do. So essentially, we adopt what estimated market value is, term that statute references, and say, well, this is what we appraise it at. So this is our assumed fair market value, advertised, did that, no bids. After that, it says, okay, try 90% of fair market value. Did that, advertised, sold, no bids. Cut it in half, advertised, for sale, no bids. So we're out of steps as far as statute is concerned. When we look at some of the correlations, Tammy's the subject matter expert here, but from a tax forfeited land perspective, you go through the auction process, you go through the sale process, and at the end of the day, no one bids on it. You have this property that's for sale over the counter for whoever wants to come in and pay you that minimum bid price. So we have a minimum bid price, I would suggest, whatever that last advertised amount was, $30,000, et cetera. If the board wants to deviate from the minimum bid price, I would suggest you deviate from the minimum bid price formally and re-advertise. And it could be for a lower amount, certainly, because we're outside of precedent at this point. We tried what the statute says. We tried looking at comparable sales. Rock did a great job providing us some information the last time. Said, here's a parcel that it looks like, try this. So because these parcels are so unique, this one very unique as well, woods with some water running through it in the middle of a bunch of other private property. So it's only ever going to be marketable to somebody that's adjacent to it. So the best practice moving forward would be to find a price that the board is comfortable with and just keep moving forward. I don't think we necessarily even need board action to do that at this point. Just direction to staff essentially to keep going down or find that next increment and advertise it.
What was our minimum bid on that one?
I believe it's 30.
Yeah. So it was more than the last sale.
Yeah, 30,000 and 25,000 for the Glen property.
Like a couple tenths of an acre more on this piece.
I think the only conversation that we may or may not want to have is the philosophical one that Commissioner Milbrook brought up. I mean, we have people in the county who are concerned about wildlife, places for wildlife. And rightfully so. And we know what happens from from the Smiths Mill Park, we know what happens when the DNR has management of something that doesn't have access, is people still go out there because the DNR owns it, and one of the adjacent reasons we've tried to move these into private hands is because A, then it goes back on the tax rolls, and B, then a person who lives here or who owns property here is responsible for it, not a state agency. And so that means trespassing issues and those kinds of things. It's a private person who has those responsibilities for that. And we've had these discussions before here at the board, and philosophically, I don't know that we have wavered from that. But I just want to make sure we're thinking holistically about what we might want to do, and we don't have an action item on this right now, and it sounds like we don't need an action item. But if there is a preference for us to move this into private hands rather than the hands of a state agency, we should let Ryan know that, so he can move that direction.
And I just want to make you aware that, DNR property, state land does touch these boundaries.
So they have adjacent land.
They have adjacent land to it, so they could still bid on that property.
The DNR received notification of this years ago. And actually, we attempted to sell it to them several years ago. There wasn't any interest at that point in time, because there's another piece adjacent to the old landfill as well that is DNR managed, and it was the same response. We're not interested in expanding our footprint.
And both of those DNR properties has access, so they would have access to this parcel through their other parcel.
Correct.
Okay. Because we don't want to just landlock this to another landlocked piece. Yeah.
Well, it would be my preference to get into Waseca County constituent sense. Moving that way instead of towards the DNR.
Yeah.
If we get to the point where if you go much lower than 30,000, then is it even worth selling it? And if we're concerned about it staying in its form the way it is, then the DNR is the place for it to be, because it will stay in its present form, DNR. So if we're not concerned anymore about, if it gets to the point where the decision is to keep it or keep lowering the price, if we're gonna decide to keep it, then we could just well let the DNR have it, because we're not gonna get taxed either way, and it'll stay in its present form
Yes.
forever. So I don't think we should be completely opposed to the DNR having it if there even is.
Well, and if you zoom out a little bit on that map, if you look at these parcels, this is the other piece of the 80 that they own the rest of this 80. The DNR does already, just to the north of it.
Okay.
They own this.
And I may have missed it, but have we had any contact with DNR?
Yes.
We have,
Yeah, they contacted me.
they did.
Yeah, their language essentially was they would look at it and put a bid together, and I don't think we've heard since then. I don't know.
They called me 3 times. On Saturday. Almost 2 months ago. Out of Owatonna.
Yeah, If they came back and offered $30,000, we have no reason not to bring it to you to sell because they've received all of the solicitations from day one. They are an adjacent owner. They have every right to put a bid on it. So if they do put a bid on it, obviously we'll bring it back to you for consideration. You do also have the option to remove it from sale at any point in time as well, just throw that out there, just so you are aware of options.
But as of now, that minimum bid will stay there until you change it.
Correct. Yeah.
Did you put a sign out there?
It's in a tree stand.
Oh dear. All right, any other questions on this? Or for Brian here on the budget? We kind of took a little detour here. Which is okay. I think that's it, Brian. Thank you.
Thank you. It's fine.
We won't be shy about asking other questions if they come to us.
I'm here.
We know you are. Thank you. All right. Anything else for us during the work session here?
Just really briefly, Madam Chair, thanks for your time again this morning. We're going to look at this more in depth next week, and if it's on your calendar yet, I'll just mention, I don't know if there's positive edits on the schedule that we looked at the last time, but we essentially have a touch point every Tuesday moving forward, leading up to the 15th. So the 25th, here from Community Corrections and some other staff, and we'll go a little bit further down the rabbit hole of property impacts as well as we start to get closer to that 9/15 date, where we'll ask you for consideration on preliminary levy. This is just looking at some assumed values, net tax capacity changes, and it actually decreased almost 0.5%, 0.48% in total net tax capacity. So just this highlighted column. And most of that actually is just an adjustment from ag per tillable acre went down as you see here, 2.5% down to 11,600. So last year when I kind of put that skew in front of you of here's a tax burden on ag versus a tax burden on everything else, it was about 52-48 ag. It'll be really close to 50-50 2027. So this 50.38% is the total amount of agricultural net tax capacity compared to the total tax capacity in the county. So we're seeing a little bit of adjustment or correction on the ag side of things. Other property types, residential, homestead, this isn't universally applied across the entire county, but a good median basis is 5% increase. You are all very aware of how the Board of Equalization works, so that isn't a universal principle. It can go neighborhood by neighborhood at times, but for the most part, 5% is a pretty good assumed increase in residential homestead values from 2026 into 2027. Same thought process of about 4% for commercial and industrials. Zoom in. Apartments, as you see, had kind of a large correction that happened as well. However, they're an extremely small portion of the overall net tax capacity picture. So we go back up here. They don't amount for much in total net tax capacity on the whole, but it is still a pretty sizable correction in 1 year, approaching nearly 25% in some cases for the greater than 4 units. So you can see that was pretty far behind in that equalization process and it demanded a larger adjustment there. Some of that could be a generation from the new construction that's happening even in the city of Waseca. So there's some activity happening in the apartment world that hasn't before. So Houses a reprised look at that property class type itself. We don't have to go through all this today either, but this is kind of what I was, as you can go. But I was referring, saying like, we'll look at it a little bit more in depthly next week, but just kind of the whole skew across at the property type level for everything we're talking about and everything you're considering as you get closer to a preliminary levy picture. So building in, the 5% average EMD increases, if the levy increases X, Y, Z, commensurate tax increases ABC, so to speak. Very simple numerator denominator relationship in terms of levy and tax base. So as I already told you, the tax base itself went down slightly. So it has kind of a dual impact. If the levy goes up and the tax base goes down, the rate is higher. Levy goes down and the value goes up, the rate is significantly lower. And anything in between, right? So we know there's changes every single year. That's not anything new. Well versed in how that process works, but we'll dive into that a lot deeper and look in some at some specific property tax impacts on specific classifications and property types as well. Just really wanted to leave that cliffhanger for you for a week so you can think about it the whole time.
So, question, net tax capacity went down. Because, that 2.5% going down in ag. But yet residential at 15 million went up 5%. It was,
Yeah,
it seems hard to believe we went down in tax capacity, so I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, it wasn't a lot, right? It's 0.48%. So you see just in sheer percentages, ag last year was roughly 52% of the total pool. Residential, let me just put up there too. And really the difference between the two is just going to be the difference in the weighted average between the two.
Yeah.
So residential accounts for 35% of the total picture. Ag accounts for 50% of the total picture. So even if one goes up slightly, and that's why I was careful to mention that it isn't a universal principle. Not every residential property went up 5%. So it's just, if we want to look at the population hubs and say, in the city of Waseca or the city of Janesville, a house that was $200,000 in 26 is probably $210,000 in 2027. So that absolutely did not happen in every single residential homestead or residential property as a whole or house garage first acre. So, and residential, the HGA piece of ag land is captured in this residential line, considered residential property. So the home site of a farm, the agricultural piece up here is the acres and all of the other stuff that isn't the residential component.
Commercial and industrial went up or down.
It went up about 4%. Again, not a universal principle, but most major industrial. The typical, I'd call mom and pop, not so much, but larger commercial industrial, yes.
Dig into this more next week.
Yeah, we'll spend a mind-numbing amount of time on it, I'm sure. It'll be great.
Sir,
I'm excited.
Does the cannabis, we got these cannabis grows, are they still in the agricultural? It's a lot.
The cultivation pieces
Yes.
for the most part, yeah. I mean, we'll see a lot more in the industrial zone, indoor grow facilities.
that's where they're planting it.
Right. You could see how if we all of a sudden got into a long-term skid on ag, what kind of effect that would have on our residential people for taxes. We're so heavily dependent on ag economy.
Yeah, I will show you an example as, I don't know if I do it every year, but I try to at least mention just how those shifts happen every single year and how that burden of that shift is realized on individual properties. And it can be significant. And you've, like, before you've made any decisions, like, even if you said, we're just doing a 0% levy, nothing's changing, something's changing. And for some people, a lot of some things are changing. That's just how the market is shifting. And that's why I just always go back to the simple equation of the formula. Got levy up here, value down here. One of them changes, the rate's changing, and thus the impact is changing. So especially when it's coupled, like we saw a few years ago with huge increases to ag tillable in 2023 across the state, while there were simultaneous levy pressures happening as COVID dollars were going away, it was just this kind of multiplied impact on ag properties. So ag will feel a little more of a relief in 2027 compared to 2026. But always an interesting analysis.
Gets to be quite a combination when you have your residential and your ag.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, every year, especially in Waseca County, you have one property that is typically insulated to pressures and one that is magnified by pressures. And you will typically see a situation where, okay, for residential properties to realize a break even, the levy would have to decrease 7% or something like that. Whereas that may mean A will be static. And it's just always an interesting inverse relationship between the two biggest property types there.
I think it is very helpful to have it broken down this way, particularly because as I look at the number of properties in each class, 5,000 in ag, 7,000 in residential. It is very clear from looking at this that our commercial industrial, where in a lot of economies, that's the third leg to the stool that we really don't have highly developed here, just because we don't.
Good point.
Yeah. And you see that even in the values, the residential at 14 million and agricultural at 2.2. Those are the only values in new construction that, those are the biggest places where we grew too. So we're on a track and we're not getting out of that track, it seems, but we keep working at it.
But it's positive and still you're seeing some good new construction value in residential. So that's a trend you hope to see continue. $14.3 million in new construction value of residential is a good thing. So.
And we know we need it.
And with some of the planned developments we're seeing and hearing about, expects that trend to continue over the next few years.
Excellent.
So yeah, deeper dive next Tuesday. But I think, Madam Chair, that's all I need to share for the day.
All right. I am going to adjourn our work session, so we have a few minutes to stand, stretch, move around. Are we ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we will call this meeting to order. Thanks everybody for being here. Silence your cell phones and please stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everyone. That's a full house today. We usually begin with public comment, and I particularly want to welcome Representative Allen up to our podium with much thanks from the citizens of Janesville and those who drive through on Main Street. We were at a city council meeting that I was at it's a month, 6 weeks ago now. There was some problems with some panels around the railroad tracks that were sticking up pretty far and making the getting across those railroad tracks on Main Street pretty bumpy for a lot of traffic. And we know a guy and made some calls and citizens had made a number of calls before that, but we helped get that thing fixed fast. There's much appreciation for my little corner of the world for your being able to know how to make that connection and get that fixed. Thank you so much.
Okay.
And you've got some things to tell us today. So welcome to Waseca County.
Well, thank you very much. And my apologies for not making it here sooner. It's been an exceptionally busy summer. Been at a lot of events and going around for a lot of meetings. The Representative Sexton told me once, he goes, this is about the most full-time, part-time job you're ever going to have in your life, I think. And I will second that because it really is that way. But if you're going to do what you can to be able to help people, this is exceptionally rewarding and you've got to invest everything you have in it. I was happy to help out in Janesville with what they were dealing with the unintended speed bumps you had by the railroad tracks. It just was a matter of making a few phone calls. Glad railroad was able to get that resolved. And now you guys don't have to worry about wrecking your suspension systems as you're trying to drive through town. So first off, I want to start off with a thank you to the commissioners here. Your presence at the Capitol was greatly appreciated as we were going through the budgeting, bonding, and working through several of the issues we had this year at the state capitol, specifically around DHS technology systems and the modernization of that. We finally got that funded. We have everything going through. We know that's where one of the major glitches and problems we've had in the state of Minnesota, especially when it took staff time in order to be able to try to wait there for the spinning wheel of death. And they were sick and tired of dealing with that system. I'm glad we have money finally in place to be able to do the modernization and upgrade on that system, which was direly needed. I heard it from all three counties that I represent, and it was one of the great things we were able to get accomplished. Some of the other things we were able to accomplish is we were able to get $1.2 billion of bonding capital investment taken care of. There was a slight modification to the bonding bill this last year. For those of you that don't know, a percentage of it usually goes to the state, a smaller percentage goes to local infrastructure projects. This year, we were able to actually, against what the governor really wanted us to do, we ended up taking the typical 60-40 split. We moved it to a 55-45 because we didn't get a split. So 45% of the bonding bill was going to local projects, 55% of the bonding bill ended up going to state projects. The governor didn't like the idea, but we didn't get a bonding bill passed 2 years ago. And you can't travel state, especially seeing here in the city of Waseca with what we're dealing with wastewater treatment and whatnot, and not feel impacted and feel that we had to do something in order to address these issues. The biggest issue we see in rural Minnesota and greater Minnesota is wastewater treatment plants and freshwater delivery systems. Those are the two #1 things I see over and over and over again. And for people that want photo op, it's not necessarily the most thrilling thing to get your picture with, but it is the most critical thing if we are really truly interested in preserving water quality and improving water quality, and also improving the water that we drink every day. So I was happy to be able to work on the bonding side of it in the capital infrastructure committee that I serve on and get that accomplished. The other thing was we were able to lower car tab fees for 1 year. That starts in December, so everybody gets a little bit of a 1 year break. Hopefully we have an opportunity to take another bite at the apple in order to permanently, or take it for a longer period of time and lower tab fees. The biggest thing I wanted to touch on was something that we accomplished this last year that was an initiative that Representative Igo did from up north in northern Minnesota, and it's going to be a constitutional amendment for the permanent school fund. I understood that the school already came in and kind of told you about the importance of this. This is going to be something that's going to be on the ballot, among other things, but this is, in my mind, this is one of the most important things we have on the ballot this year. You have to flip the ballot over in order to find it. If you don't vote on this, it's a no. This is one of those things that I think is an easy yes. It doesn't add anything to us for taxes. It goes to public schools in the state of Minnesota, and it essentially is going to bring up the existing dollar amount that they're currently receiving and almost double that. So currently on average, most schools I think are at about $40. It's going to ended up bringing it up to like either 90 or 100 or something along those lines. But this is something that is a really, really great deal. It was set up a long time ago when we first became a state, and the money that comes into this fund is basically coming from everything from whether it's mining, timber, sales, those kinds of things, and that all flows into this fund. We know we can go to a higher rate, so instead of it being at 2.5, it's going to bump up to 4.5 in terms of the distribution amount. So just wanted to make sure voters knew about that. It's a critical thing we need, especially within our public schools, as they are flipping over every couch cushion in order to find whatever they can to be able to continue the critical programming that they do. I think this is an easy thing we can do as voters to be able to help out with that. So with that, thank you again for your advocacy at the Capitol. Thank you for the work that you do. It's a lot of work and a lot of time we put in serving your respective communities. I completely appreciate that, and it's been an honor serving you. And if the voters are kind enough, I'll hopefully have another 2 years to be able to do it as well. So, any questions?
Go ahead, sir.
If you have contact with the railroad, you have a couple of places to see this. State Street, 4th Street South, greatly appreciate it. So.
Okay. I guess I'll actually run over there and take a look at it. So.
He had pictures to send from Janesville.
It always helps. Pictures tell a much larger story, but it's like, is this normal for a railroad? And all suddenly it's like, whoa. So.
And there's just so much truck traffic there.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good morning, and I believe I know the answer to this, but why? So statutorily, this has to come to a vote versus state legislators being able to, because this is coming out of fund money. It's not raising taxes or anything like that, but yet it's still statute. Yeah, it's frustrating to me because, we got to really educate that board, if not flipping it over is a no vote. This fund was established and it is in the Constitution of the state. That's why it's got to come to a referendum. Mm-hmm. If I have understood this correctly, because it was constitutionally established, not legislatively established. And part of this, yes, is going to move it into the realm of the legislators so that.
Yeah, actually, the correction to that, it stays in the Constitution exactly where it's supposed to be at. We do not move it out of the legislature one bit. So it stays constitutionally locked into where it's at. We're just moving it. We're asking the public to allow us to be able to move it from the 2.5 up to the 4.5. And then if we ever wanted to redo this again sometime down the road, we are going to have to do an amendment similar to this and say, hey, things are looking much better than we think. We can bump it up to 6, but then we would have to do another vote. And that would be another thing that we have to put before the public, the state of Minnesota, in order to be able to give us the ability to be able to make that change.
Okay.
I mean, we can only move so much through, but you touch the Constitution, and it's something that we have to have everybody in the state of Minnesota looking at and voting on in order to be able to do it. And make it stuff correct.
What if it's the opposite? What if you're run out of money in that fund? 4.5% was an overstatement and it's the fund.
But then we would have to do another one. We'd have to do another one of these on a vote and go forward with. Realistically, with where current numbers are at and how everything is flowing in, we are being exceptionally conservative as far as the amount of money that we can tap into on this. It is actually it's a much bigger fund. We could distribute a lot more money than what we currently are, but we are keeping this as conservative as possible. So we know we will never have to go up against, or will lower the risk of ever having to do something like that. So.
All right, thank you.
Other questions or comments? Thank you, Representative, for all the work you do and the partnership you have with Waseca County. It is always a joy to come and visit with you and talk to you about what's going on in our corner of the world. Thank you for representing us so well. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. And this job is not about politics. It's about customer service. And that's what I'm here to do. Yeah, whether it's citizens, whether it's boards, city councils, township boards. I can't fix things I don't know about. So, and if there's a question of where do you have to go and what needs to happen, I am happy to point the direction in which you got to go, and I'm happy to help out wherever I can. So, my door is always open, my phone's always on. Please call.
We appreciate it.
Thank you for letting me speak.
Absolutely. And we are still in public comment. So if there's someone else here for public comment, please take the microphone and introduce yourself.
Good morning,
Good morning.
and that is my purpose. I'm Pastor Peg Morose, and I serve Trinity Lutheran Church in New Richland. And I've only been there since July 1st, because before that I had 4 congregations in the Bryceland area. So I wanted to come and introduce myself. I am in a learning mode because I've never been to a commissioner's meeting before, so I was quite intimidated, I have to say, until I saw you. So I really, really appreciate it. And I want to echo what the representative said. I'm not here politically. I'm here for God's people. So thank you. Any questions for me?
We're just so glad you're here.
Welcome to the Richland area. Did you move?
No,
Okay.
no, I geographically restricted. We love Bryceland, and I moved here from the East Coast to Gettysburg Seminary. So we've been here 5 years, and my husband's a Minnesotan. Thank you. Thank you for letting me be here.
Thank you.
Pastor Peg, you should know that New Richland is part of Commissioner Christopherson's district.
Good, that's what I
And so
wanted to
now
know.
Yeah,
you have that connection, but as always, and for all citizens,
yeah.
you can call whoever you're most comfortable with. We try to make sure that there's no wrong door here with our commissioner board. And so, thanks.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
All right, anybody else? Yes.
Would the commissioners like a picture with Representative Allen for the newspaper?
Heck, yeah. Pictures are good. I don't know what your time frame is.
I'll stick around until after.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'll still.
Okay, we do eat out afterwards too, and we'd like to invite you to come with us if you want. If we eat out publicly, so we can hear from politicians, you'd be welcome. So, all right, then we'll wait for the picture, then we'll get on. Anybody else here for public comment? Hearing and seeing none, I will close public comment, and we will go on to our first presentation of the day. Min Prairie quarterly updates, and we want to thank our Min Prairie administrator and staff for being here. And go ahead and dive right in.
Good morning, commissioners. I am Tina Rentz. I am with our adult services. I'm the program manager at Mid Prairie. Was this all included in the?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So, wait, hold on. That one doesn't look like mine.
No, that.
Okay. So electronically, you guys all received a copy of what I share with our Mid Prairie board every quarter. This is all of the different data that I collect and put together regarding adult services at Mid Prairie, the programs and the people that we serve. Go ahead to the pretty pictures. There we go. So this is something we've been doing for a couple of years, maybe 4. Where we break it out based on, county, and how many individuals are on all the different programs that we have. Last time I presented to all of you, I had only included the last pages of this packet, which is the definitions of all the different programs. Just kind of wondering, is there anything that you all would like to know more about in regards to adult services or programs that we do or how we assist your residents?
I think this is particularly for those of us that don't get into this Prairie world all the time. I know as a board member on the Prairie board, I really, really appreciated the extra effort that staff has put into helping us see how residents county by county are being served. It helps us have a better understanding of the organization and we know it takes extra time to do that. And then you put it in pretty charts besides. So thank you for that. Any questions for Tina? As you can see, there's quite a swath of information. And if there's no questions for Tina, we can turn it over to the next one in line, whoever that is. Thanks for being here, Patty.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Patty Harrelson. I'm the manager of Child and Family Social Services in New Prairie. There's a lot of data, but no pretty pictures in my report today. So page 1 and 2 is just data that's specific from Waseca County for Child and Family. On page 3, there's some trend data for Waseca's data because the trend data in Dodge is a bit different than it is in Waseca than it is in Steele. And so in the Joint Powers Board meeting, you get a amalgam of all of that. Here, this is specific to Waseca County. So there's some information about youth in care is trending down. It continues to do that. There was one point where Mid Prairie had 154 youth in care. And over the last, I think, 6 years, we've reduced that to anywhere from 55 to 45, depends on the month, and it changes every month. So you may see 45 on a spreadsheet, and it's not the same 45 kids that were in care the previous month. It's mostly the same, but kids change in a month as well. Average stay in care is trending upward. That continues to go up. Although we did just successfully get a youth, but he left and he's 18 and he went to South Dakota and is not participating in any of our programs, which is his choice. And so I think it drops our days in care from something like 800 and some to 400 and some for adoptions.
Wow.
So that was a big change, or will be a big change. You haven't seen it yet. We continue to do active safety planning in high-risk cases. We continue to work on our caseload. They're harder cases. I mean, you know, when I started in child protection 32 years ago, and we were still taking dirty houses and lice and poverty and those kind of things. And we have certainly moved well past that and are now having very difficult cases that we try to manage and safety plan and work with. So things have changed a lot, I think, for the better for families because we're much less surveillance, which I appreciate. Adoption timeline has increased. So those are some of the just basic data. There's some observations on page 4. I'm not going to go through that. If you have questions about that, I'll be happy to answer that at the end. We did obviously have the raise in delinquency age on the 1st of August that took place. And I know Rachel has talked to the law enforcement in Waseca County about that and how their office is handling this. We certainly have a stake in that related to the age kids for the 2 a.m. I need a placement, I need something, those kind of things. So we're working with each CAO's office on those things. So there's an update there. There's an update on MAPA, CWDA, and DCYF update for you as well. And then a neat thing for me is, and I'll bring it to our Joint Powers Board tonight, but I would like to extend the contract for the contractor, the consultant that we have, Elizabeth Armstrong, who's been working in Dodge for just about a year. But I want her to be able to do services, which she's going to do unless I extend her contract. So she's ready to actually
set up a small shop in one of the Dodge Center doctor's offices. The physician has a really nice office set up that they are willing to allow us to use and use off of, and not have to buy space right now. So she can do diapers and education classes and things there. The other thing that I'm wanting Elizabeth to do is work with me on the SOUR implementation grant, because we're at a point where we're ready to ask SOUR for the implementation funds to start a FRC in Dodge, and then look at Waseca and how do we get one started here. And then I also want to divert some of her time over to Waseca to begin planning and talking to folks over here to get this one kind of rolling. So very exciting news to be able to do that. And I'm hoping that our board appreciates and wants to do that, but I guess I don't know, in about 6 hours. So, and I'll let you know, or actually be in double, let you know. So, any questions?
This was a question I was gonna have this afternoon.
Okay.
I can ask now is, so up to this point, has it been, budgeted money for this contract, or we're getting a
For
getting
FRC.
a grant?
We have a grant, we're using the SOUR funds, because as you remember, SOUR does not like to get money back. So they were, no, don't give us our money back. We want you to spend it. So they are allowing us to spend it with our consultant, and I still have money in that budget. And then I'm going to have Elizabeth work with me on a implementation grant to give us money to do a larger FRC
Right, to
project.
extend
Yeah.
that.
We've just been getting ready for it. Now we're ready to start.
In that grant, it's fairly confident you can get that, because we're gonna start this process. You're asking us to extend this contract really before we even apply.
Yes, so I know that because I've talked to the grant person, and basically they set out, so when I applied for the first grant, might be 3 years ago now, this is a guaranteed process, so we know we'll get an implementation grant. I don't know the amount of it, but I will get a grant to implement an FRC in both counties.
Okay.
So that's a given. The question is what happens after that. So there's a sustainability question
Right.
and some other things. So it's not like we're gonna go forward and open a center without the Joint Powers Board, and then obviously without your permission as well. So, we would come back to you and say, this is the grant, this is what we think, this is what we're looking at. I am well aware that neither Dodge nor Waseca wants us to pay a whole lot of money for rent and that kind of thing. So we're looking at what kind of spaces can we use, where can we do this? In Dodge, I know that she's got a good partnership with the physician's office and with the health department. So we're looking at those options, and we'll start to look at some of the same things in Waseca.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Go ahead, sir.
Penny, last time we discussed on a state placement of juveniles.
Mhm.
Has that changed within our state? And the reason I'm asking is I have a representative sitting here with no facilities within our state. So, and the cost factor of when we have to have them placed out of state.
Well, the cost factor is significant, and we don't have anybody out of state currently, so even Prairie doesn't have anybody out of state. Can I stand here and say tomorrow I'm not gonna get a request to place out of state? I can't. We have, as you're aware, we have a placement crisis in Minnesota. That's not new. It's not new to any state. I came from Ohio. We had a placement crisis 5 years ago in Ohio. It continues to get worse, if not a concern. So I know that Paul, can't think of his last name. What's Paul's last name at Mason?
Starts with a V.
Correct. Yeah, he's a new director to me. But I know he has met with some groups about placements and extending, wanting to come in to do things. The trouble is that getting a private entity to come in and open a facility is not, it's not economically feasible for them as the process. When you look at Medicaid dollars, there's not enough reimbursement to pay for kids to be in these placements. Counties have to pay the burden of the stay. So the room and board is on the counties. And the other thing is, honestly, I would stand here with the representative and I would say the state needs to kick in and start some of these facilities, because it's not gonna happen unless they do. That's just my opinion.
That's what I'm just kind of, just
My opinion is they need to open facilities for children, and I'm sure Tina would say for adults too. But we need to have facilities that care for people who are less fortunate and can't manage it, and help families who really need the help, who can't manage these kids at home. We have a larger population of autistic kids who can't managed to be maintained in the home. So some of those things are certainly a challenge, but I think, Maxa continues to work on that. I know I know representatives are set based on, what they're interested in and what committees they're on and all of that. And I know Angie and Paul and our legislative team at AMC that you are all part of, and Maxa that we are all part of, is working those avenues and continues to do it. I would stand here and say, I wish the state had infinite money. It doesn't. It's their choices. Every person that has to make these choices makes hard choices. And so would I want more? Sure, that's my job. Child and family, I want more facilities. The other problem, I think, or the other challenge that we have is federal law is somewhat restricting them. So even though, I have an idea that we can do cool things with residential care, the federal government doesn't reimburse us anymore for those types of care for youth. Congregate care and youth are not compatible in the federal government's mindset, which is unfortunate because some of these kids do need congregate care. Not all of them, but if there is a need for those kids to have that kind of care.
And that's what I wanted to express. Educational and
Yes.
informational for everybody.
Yeah.
So,
Well, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. Any other questions or thoughts?
I'm just going to thank you for the work you're doing, particularly as representative on a couple of work groups at the state level for Mid Prairie and thus for Waseca County on helping inform some of these changes and processes and using your expertise and influence in a larger fashion to make sure that our rural voice is heard and considered as the state makes changes, as we deal with changes from the federal government. We don't always get what we ask for, but we don't get any of what we don't ask for.
That's very true.
And I appreciate that you are using your expertise to ask thoughtfully and wisely and to help us understand what's going on in the larger system.
Well, and the other piece of that the statewide work group is winding down. We're getting ready to put our final report into the commissioner of DCYF. And I think, I think rural communities have been scared, and I'm going to stand here and say, I think that what you're being told is way high. Like when people say it's going to cost you $1 million for MAPA, I don't think that that's true. So it's not true. I'm in with Waseca or Dodge. We already practice a lot of safety planning. We already do a lot of work with families ahead of time. The people that are in our ongoing services are people that need to be there and need our assistance and help. But I know that number is scary to you all, but that's not really what the cost is going to be for rural communities in Minnesota that are practicing child protection the way it should be practiced. So I don't believe that we're going to see that cost. The issue for us is going to be, we get $100,000 per county. Dodge and Waseca each get $100,000. The question is, how do you spend that? Because I don't have resources in our communities. Like, what is a culturally sensitive resource for people living in poverty? No one can answer that question for us. The statewide work group asked. No one can tell us what that is. And so when you look at cultural appropriateness for people living in poverty, that becomes a challenge for rural communities. It's not about, our Black population is 1.7%. That's not an issue here. Our Hispanic population is significant, and that is in MAFPA, so that does need to be attended to. But I honestly don't believe that our child protection is going to serve any resident differently. I don't think it's going to matter to us. We will welcome any family into our services that we can. And continue to do that. What happens when we split, I don't know, but I know what Mid Prairie is going to do. We will continue to practice that way.
Well, thank you for the work you've done in the last number of years since you've been here too, to improve our services and unknowingly prepare us for this change.
Yeah.
Because we know that has been a process as well. Thanks.
Thank you.
Deanne, come on up. Welcome. We're so glad you're here.
I'm Deanne Bonet. I'm the manager for Income Healthcare Assistance. And I am the one that has the extra pages that should have went around. So that goes with my presentation. So I just want to share the trends and the programs and eligibility, child support, and also the broad programs. So the first graph there is showing our annual caseload average. So during COVID, that trended way high. And then we're seeing that level up since the unwinding, of all the COVID rules. In 2026 through June, just the trend is maybe we might see a slight decrease, but it's been fairly stable, the last couple of years. This covers all of our programs and eligibility, so all the cash, food, and healthcare programs. And there's just that natural churn. So, we're seeing people go off and then new applications come on. We're averaging about 500 new applications a month. So it is a lot of busy work, but important work, to serve the people in our community. And then go to the next page. I broke it down kind of by program areas. So the next page is cash programs, and just the 4 major cash programs that we have, and how those are trending. So MPIP is seeing a slight increase, but most of that is due to our diversionary work program, which was a cash program that was a 4-month program to divert people from going to long-term MPIP cash assistance. That program sunsetted in 2026. We had a low, maybe around 30 to 50 cases usually in DWP. Those all now they go right to MPIP. So that program no longer exists. So I think that's why we're seeing a little increase there. General assistance serves adults in our community. Most commonly, it's people who are unable to work for a short period of time due to a short-term illness or medical condition that's doctor verified. So we're seeing an increase in the need for this program and trending to be somewhere like 8 to 10% more into 2026 if that continues throughout the year. MSA is another cash program that supports people on Social Security disability. It's an $81 grant just to help them supplement their needs. That program stays pretty stable and don't project any increase. Housing support, formerly known as group residential housing or GRH, we're seeing a 3 to 5% increase in that program area as well. Any questions in cash assistance?
Can I go back to the 500 and some applications a month? What was that for?
That's new applications that we're seeing. That doesn't include like add-on programs. So if someone's on SNAP and then they want to apply for cash, they already have an open case, so it doesn't. That's still another application we have to process. So it's just more work. But this is just brand new applications that are coming into the agency.
On all these different things?
On all the programs. Yeah.
Okay, so in general, would you say 500 some a month? That's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
What percentage is legitimate applications that you get them onto a program? Are half of them more than half?
Gosh, I don't know. There's no way to pull that data because our systems are so
I just,
old.
yes, because some of them obviously get denied, I would imagine, because their
Right.
incomes are too high.
Yep, we do see denials. I don't know how I'd pull that data. It would be a lot of manual tracking.
Well, you track how it increases, so I guess you can kind of tell by overall how much you're increasing versus how many applications you're getting.
Yeah, but the other variable is there's how many people are closing off of the programs. So they kind of,
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay,
so,
not important, I was just curious.
yeah, no, it's a good question. I wish there was a way. I'll think about it, see if there's something I can come up with to try to get that data.
New state technology will help a lot.
I hope so. We need it badly.
Anything else on the cash programs before PM goes on? Go ahead.
Right, SNAP changes. So there's been a lot of SNAP changes, especially with federal laws changing around SNAP. So the work requirements changed in November of 2025. So federal law expanded the SNAP work requirements by increasing the number of adults that are subject to time limits and reducing exemptions So more people have to cooperate with work. And so the impact so far, from December of 2025, because this took effect in November, through June was about 50 cases less. But we might see less cases, but we also have an increased administrative burden just because there's so many new exemptions and we have to track all of that, all the screening, tracking, different notices and exemption determinations. So maybe less cases, but not necessarily less work. Another impact to SNAP was the time limited recipient clock restarted as of January 1st. So SNAP recipients are limited to 3 months in a 3-year period for SNAP. And that's for people who are able-bodied and able to work. And so everyone who had used those 3 months and 3 years is now eligible again as of January 1st. So that is kind of impacting our SNAP program as well. And then we have the non-citizen changes that happened in March of 2026 that impacted approximately 30 people, according to the state data that they have given us. Overall, from June of 2025 to June of 26, there was a reduction of about 76 SNAP cases. So any questions? I know SNAP with all the cost shifts and all this stuff is a lot of things happening in that world right now. So. Healthcare programs, again, just the trends here. There was an increase during COVID. After unwinding, they've been fairly steady. We do expect to see some impacts. The non-citizen requirements going into effect as of October 1st. So we should see some reduction in caseloads with that change. And then effective January 1st of 27, the federal changes will significantly impact our county workloads. We'll have added community engagement requirements, which I'm not really sure how that looks. The state's still working on a plan. And then also more frequent eligibility reviews. So we'll go from 1 review a year to 2 for a certain population. So it'll be more work, again, maybe less cases, but the impact is going to be, maybe we remain steady. Fraud, now these is the new pages I sent out. I apologize, this had dodged county information on it. When I was here last quarter, you guys asked if we could split that out to show Waseca County. So that's what I have done here on those extra pages. So this shows the cost savings and overpayments for all of the Mid-Prairie fraud region, which includes the 3 Mid-Prairie counties plus Freeborn is our fraud region. And so you can compare Mid-Prairie's total cost savings to like how much we had in Waseca County. So the cost savings are when we close someone because of the findings of a fraud investigation, we take that amount of whatever we saved on that program and multiply it by 4. And then that's how they figure out our cost savings. And then on the next page is our overpayments, and it's broke out between our region and then also Waseca County. So, and some of those overpayments are lower because during COVID, we couldn't cite overpayments for certain things. So it was very limited. Any questions on fraud?
Yes, go ahead.
When you say Mid-Prairie region, that's 3 county
And Freeborn.
and 3. Oh, yeah, okay.
Most counties in the state are combined in regions for fraud.
Is that? Well, Waseca County is pretty high compared to the region.
Overpayments or
In 25,
And 25 overpayments.
yeah, it's kind of, it ebbs and flows depending on kind of what kind of case that we get.
What cases?
Yeah, so. And we've really tried to improve communications with county attorney's office and with law enforcement to help. And so we've done some combined criminal cases and added in our charges. So that's, I think, helped with our numbers to go up as well.
Excellent.
Any other questions? Okay, and then child support, this is just kind of our trend for caseloads, overall in Prairie. The other pie graph that I sent out, breaks it down by, the counties within Min Prairie, so you can see what was collected. That was asked last time I was here. And as you can see, what was originally in here was I didn't have the report back from the state. Again, due to system limitations, I can't pull that data, so I had to ask for an ad hoc report. So I was able to get that in time for this. So I did add that in here. So child support total reflected was like 9.9 million. And then I broke down the caseload sizes as of March 30th, 2026. So you can see kind of how many cases each county has within child support. Any questions on any of that?
Other questions? No? Thank you for bringing your expertise and helping us understand particularly the administrative work that goes behind all these programs that come from the state and federal government and that locally we get to administer. And this is why technology is so important.
Yes.
And why it will be great when those systems get updated, but we've got a ways to go before that's going to happen. And then we get the transition piece. So I know that's moving on the horizon. Thank you. Here, are you going to talk to us or not at all?
Not till action items.
Okay, we'll save you for the action items then. Thank you to Min Prairie staff, not just for coming to present, but for all you do year round to make sure that Waseca County residents are cared for and that programs are properly administered. All right, we're finally to the approval of an amended agenda. And so I would be looking for a motion to approve an amended agenda.
So moved. Stop.
All right.
Second by policy.
Motion by Christopherson, second by Krause. Any discussion about that? Do you want to pull it an item on consent?
No.
Okay. Then we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, passes. Minutes. We've got 3 sets of minutes. And I would be looking for a motion to do them as a slate, if that would be appropriate.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
Second part.
All right. Commissioner Milbrook with the motion, Commissioner Hartman with the second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, then consent agenda. We have 3 items on consent agenda. The approval of bills, the solid waste collection and transportation licenses, and the fund transfer in road and bridge. I would look the motion for the consent agenda.
The consent agenda. I'll second that, Brett.
All right, motion by Commissioner Christopherson, second by Commissioner Milbrook. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right. Then on to action items. And now it's Tara's turn. First on the action item is the Min Prairie Joint Powers Agreement. Thanks for being here.
Yes, good morning. So as you are aware, we are working towards transitioning Min Prairie from a 3-county entity to a 2-county entity. Part of that involves updating the language of our joint powers agreement to reflect that 2-county entity. One of the things that I've shared with you when I've provided you with transition updates previously is that we have established a transition planning committee. And so
the two commissioners that are on our transition planning committee are Commissioner Christopherson from Waseca here and then Commissioner Topon from Dodge. And so the way we approached this was to start processing through that with the transition planning committee. And once we felt that we had it in a place where we were comfortable with it, it then went to the McCray Joint Powers Board for adoption. And that was adopted at our July Joint Powers Board meeting. And how the Joint Powers Agreement works is that it not only needs to be approved by the McCray Joint Powers Board, but each of the member counties as well. And so in your packets, you have a copy of the updated version of the Joint Powers Agreement. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have on the agreements. Otherwise, looking for a motion from this board to adopt the updated agreement.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Milburn.
No second.
Thank you, Commissioner Christopherson. Questions or?
I just want to add that also we've had both administrators in that transition team. And they were very instrumental in putting this together with wording and different things. So it took quite a bit of discussion, but yeah, so 5 of us.
And thanks for your service on that transition committee, because you know it's important to have all the voices in the room. Any other questions or comments for Tara? Hearing none, then all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, done deal from Waseca.
Right.
Thank you,
very
Tara.
much. And I'll work with Michael Beck to get signatures once we're ready for that. It's going to the Dodge board next week.
Okay,
So I'll probably just wait until it's been through both of your boards and then send out for signature.
perfect.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, next. Jim, come on up. Resolution 2026-27, MnDOT Agreement 1063776.
Yeah, good morning. What you have in your packet is a standard agreement with the state of Minnesota for local bridge replacement program funds. And the total amount is $480,138, which matches the contract awarded to Sally Excavating at our last county board meeting with the replacement of 2 structures on Old Highway 14. The resolution would commit us to the terms and conditions of the agreement and authorize the board and the circuit to execute the agreement, which is what I recommend today.
Mhm. I would look for a motion for resolution 2026-27.
So move to approve by Krause.
Thank you, Commissioner Krause. Second,
Second by Milburn.
second by Commissioner Christopherson. You beat me to it. Sorry. Any questions or discussion here? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right. Then, thank you, Jim. Next on to contract 812601, final acceptance.
Yeah, this is our seal coat contract awarded to Aztec earlier this year. All the work has been completed. Final amount of work certified is $534,312.05, just 2% over the original contract amount. No contract changes were executed, just quantities measured equated to that difference. This contract also did include awarding 2 alternates for the city of Waseca and Woodville Township, so they had a couple of roads. And on our contract, final amount due to Aztec is $7,786.88. And the packet there is kind of a breakdown of costs. And as part of the consent agenda, we did just transfer the county's portion of funding on the bridge, our road and bridge reserves to pay for our portion, the county portion.
Any questions for Jim on this? If not, I would be looking for a motion.
So make that motion. Second, Milburn.
Thank you, Commissioner Hargis for the motion, Commissioner Mildred for the second. Yes, sir.
You're gonna ask for questions.
Yes, I have absolutely.
So how many miles?
It was like 21 or 22, something like that.
And have you ever, I know we've gotten this number before, but breaking down a per mile cost, because now we haul the P-rock and we got the materials here, other than the oil and that. So do you know what a per mile cost is?
I could have computed that before coming to, but I can certainly get it to you before lunch.
Okay,
That
no,
works
yeah,
fine.
I guess it would be,
Yeah.
it'd be nice to know.
Yep.
I know it just is a little bit, it backs you up a little bit, the cost, but it also extends the life of the road, extend it, so it's necessity. Yeah. Okay, thank
I
you.
will get that for you. Absolutely.
All right. Any other questions? Yes, go ahead, sir.
The bridge by Fisco, they just starting on that one today or yesterday?
The road.
The bridge.
We're in the middle of a motion, Benny. Why don't you say that for?
I thought we were just going.
No, let's finish up this thing, and before he leaves, I'll be mentioning, okay? That's okay. Hey, you get something in your brain, I know, you gotta ask the question, and we want you to ask the question. Any other questions about this particular contract? Then, hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right,
Thank you.
now, before you leave, now's the time.
You remember my question?
The bridge west of Waseca?
Yes.
That is next year's project.
That was next year. I seen some signs down there.
Correct. The road is going to be reclaimed and resurfaced. Potentially starting around Thursday.
They all done painting.
Just complete.
Other questions for Jim before we let him scoot away here?
Perfect.
Thank you, sir. All right, next, resolution 2026-28 courthouse security grant application. Who's going to talk to you about this?
I can do it. I was just scrolling past it.
Perfect.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Okay. Resolution, it's all good. So this is something that we applied for successfully and were successfully awarded a couple of years ago. It's looking towards purchasing the scanning equipment, base scanner, body scanner, at the lower level of the courthouse area. And the state legislature funded a little bit, I think around $4 million towards this initiative this year as well. So there's a little bit of a tight timeline that we're up against. And ultimately, we're looking for authorization to provide local match of 50%. We anticipate the cost of this venture to be upwards of $60,000. And this goes towards replacing backing up from that a little bit. We are in the process of phasing out our MyTel system, if you recall, from the information technologies budget update a couple of weeks ago. Part of that will be costs incurred to us to replace the notification systems, the fire alarms, the paging systems throughout the courthouse complex. These are costs we will end up realizing at some point in time regardless. They will be budgeted for this next budgetary cycle. So it behooves us to try to find an applicable project. And this is certainly an applicable project that fits within the guidelines of the grant application to see if we can have a portion of those paid for. So our MyTel system right now, our phone system, soft phone system, VoIP system, as it's called, supports these functions. And to be perfectly honest, it never worked extraordinarily well. So this will utilize an existing vendor that we are partnering with on all of our county facilities. So it's a hardwired connected service that will be much more reliable. as we migrate away from the Mitel system and Mitel product.
Can you once more say what those particular functions are?
So if you go through the courthouse at this point in time, you can see kind of the strobes
Yep.
on the walls, the ceilings. Some of the spaces work really well for the paging functions as well, the speakers, so we can pick up one of the soft phones and page a message across the building in a variety of situations, but not all of it works consistently well. And none of it will work at all once we move away from the Mitel system,
Sure.
which supports all of the functionality that those current products have right now that are installed in the courthouse. So they're all wireless presently. So we're moving away from the wireless and having a hardwire solution. So there's some low voltage cost that goes into the installation of this, running those cables, and then the cost of the actual equipment, the parts piece of it as well. So we anticipate that total price tag to be around $60,000. So there's a little bit of a buffer in the ask of this, authorizing up to $40,000. That is because though we request 50%, we may not actually get 50%. So it's just in anticipation that if that awarded amount from the state comes in less, then it gives us a little bit of room so we don't have to come back to you folks again to say, oh, actually we needed $35,000 instead of $30,000 in that anticipated cost. So it's a good initiative, good use of this program. And we have a due date earlier September that this needs to be done and processed by, so trying to be expedient. So this is something that the Courthouse Security Committee met on and discussed last week at length. And that is a byproduct of a recommendation to bring to you today.
Awesome. Any other questions for staff at this point? If not, I would look for a motion.
Make that motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Melbrook.
Second by Crowley.
Thank you, Commissioner Krause. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Passes. Okay. Let's go into item E, public hearing request for renewal of a conditional use permit to allow the continued mining of aggregate materials on PID 08, 010, 1200. Yeah, welcome.
Good morning. To give you a little background on this, there is an existing gravel extraction pit in this PAD. It's owned by Doreen Eaton. And it's been in place for many years. And by the previous CUP, it was up for renewal. And going through this, staff reviewed every existing condition and that was on the last CUP, and also consulted again with Jim Kohler and Chris Howard on the components related to their particular departments to make sure that the conditions would be up to date. So the Planning Commission did hold a public hearing and reviewed the application and reviewed the criteria and made a motion, approved the criteria, and then also approved the CUP request coming forward for your consideration. And so you should find in your packet a copy of the proposed CUP with the conditions, as well as a copy of the findings of fact. And I know that the applicant, Yulin Brothers, they were kind of like going to be in a different place in Minnesota on a job, but he was thinking he would try to attend online. Do you have him online? He was going to try, John.
John, no, John's.
Okay, all right. Just wanted to check. I know that he's called a couple of times to make sure, but just wanted to let you know who did attend the planning commission meeting in person to answer any questions that the planning commission had.
And just as we dive into this, well, I'll ask that question later. First of all, are there any questions from the board here for the staff at this point? I think it helps that this is an existing function that's been going on for some time without problems or difficulties.
Since 2008, they started out with the land alteration permit in 2008. And then shortly after that, in 2009 or 2010, they moved to the CUP process.
Okay.
And they use this pit. It's not an everyday use, but when they have a job that occurs here in Waseca County, they pull the gravel.
All right, if there's no questions from the commissioners, I'm gonna move,
Just one, I know from page 111 on down. This is about the Lewin brothers and the mining end of it. It states Elijah gets conditional use permit for cannabis cultivation on the bottom of the pages.
Yeah.
Unless I'm looking at a different.
The footnote does.
the footnote.
Yes.
I believe Shelley caught that footnote and she changed it, so the one that's been printed out for signature should have the correct one. I
Perfect, thank
apologize
you.
about that.
Yeah, just in case someone looks at it online.
No, definitely.
We do have the correct copy over here.
Thanks for noticing the details there. All right. Any other questions or comments for staff? If not, then at this point, 10:32, I would move us into the public hearing and ask if there is any public comment. Second time, any comment from the public? Do we have anybody in line?
Not vying to speak, Madam Chair.
All right, and then for the third time, any public comment? Hearing and seeing none. At 10:32, I would close the public hearing. Now, I'm gonna ask for a motion to close the public hearing. That's what I'm gonna do. Move.
Second by Krause.
All right, motion by Commissioner Christopherson, second by Commissioner Krause. All in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, public hearing is closed. Then, actually, 10:33, once I got that figured out. Then, next we want to move to board action, and we have findings, we have conditions, and then we have the CUP. What of that can we do together? How many different chunks should we do this in?
If you could do a motion to accept the findings of fact and then approve the conditional use permit with the conditions.
Perfect. Just wanted to make sure we did that in the right order. All right. So I would be looking for a motion to accept the findings of that.
So move by Krause.
Thank you, Commissioner Krause.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Christopherson. Any comments, questions, concerns? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, then next I would be looking for a motion to accept, to pass the conditional use permit with the conditions. Thank you, Commissioner Varga.
Second Krause.
Second by Commissioner Krause. Any comments or discussion? Sir?
One, just for the rest of the board to know that we had some discussion at the committee level on how possible to handle these pits in the future. You know, should we be handling them more like a feedlot where we're checking on them more often? to make sure that things aren't changing more than what their conditions are. That's still an ongoing discussion on how we should handle these in the future. Because there has been some instances where maybe they went beyond, but then fixed it up afterward. In fact, yeah, so it's just maybe something we need to keep an eye on. Hate to be too much of an oversight, but we want to make sure it's not getting out of hand.
Yeah, we did add a condition that allowed for Waseca County Land and Water Resources to do an annual inspection. Okay. To ensure compliance. In the past, they were just said, come back every 5 years and ask for a new one. And in this particular case, we tightened that up just a little bit. It doesn't have a 5-year renewal, but it does make them subject to an annual review by Land and Water and Plan and Zoning. Mm-hmm. And so it's a little closer guidance, but saving them the process of having to keep coming back in every 5 years, especially when one that's been this long in use.
Other questions or concerns? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right. Thank you, Tina.
Thank you.
All right. Next, on to administrative update.
Thanks, Madam Chair, members. Thanks for your time this morning, going over some important budget conversations, much more to come on that. So just another kind of reminder that every Tuesday from now to September 15th, you have something on your calendar. So conflicts there, just let me know. But that's anticipation. It's 8 a.m. work sessions every Tuesday between now and September 15th. And that's something else. Continuing to hear from staff and facilitate some of your own conversation as well, of course. I wanted to touch on the judicial center timeline a little bit as well. This is something obviously we've been discussing at length over the last several years. And with the delays we've had most recently, just adding the clarification that we've pushed that construction window to the spring of 2027. And part of the decision-making process in that brought us to Ristash Construction that we received just a preliminary estimate from late last night. They provide a service that comes in the form of owner representative. And as we came closer to the reality of we don't staff at Waseca County construction managers and individuals that work in this industry at all, let alone on a daily basis, it behooves us to have a conversation with somebody that can step through very incrementally and fastidiously as we go through the statutory process for the next few months to get us into that spring timeline. The connecting point of that, of course, is bonding. Bruce Kimmeling, I think I owe him an email still, but he's always ready and available to give us some updated figures, of course, and he's done that several times over the last few years. We're just going to push that bonding timeline out, commensurate to what the construction window will be. That makes sense. There's a pro and a con to that. The con being that Ms. Spooner will likely have departed us by then. By the time we get that up and rolling, the advantage will be that whomever seeks to fill that void when she does depart, in conjunction with that finance manager, will have the opportunity to get that experience of the process as well. So not a concern, but an updated piece in terms of moving the timeline of that bonding window. The other pro of that is that we've done well to continue to carve out a portion of capital improvement funds in the levy over the last couple of years. It just makes the cash position that much stronger as we extend that bonding timeline out. So that's a positive as well. So very encouraged in the initial conversations with Mr. Kristash, and look forward to the ongoing conversation with him. Appreciate Commissioner Walter and Target continuing to be a presence there on the building committee as well, giving some real-time feedback for us. Appreciate Representative Allen being here this morning, and just that prompted me to bring up the first legislative luncheon we had last November that we anticipate hosting again this upcoming November. So we will get a date solidified and send out invitations in the beginning of September. Just so well in advance, and I know here all of our delegates full-time, part-time job, as was eloquently stated, means a pretty heavy and committed window going into the end of the year and ramping up that legislative session in January. So we'll get that date to them a couple of months in advance, and hope that we can get some good representation there from our delegates. So that's going to be the launching point of here are the things the county sees as major priorities going into 2027 legislative session, as well as some of our user groups and partner agencies, as well as those platforms will continue to shape themselves as we get closer to the end of the year. So look forward to that conversation and the continued collaboration that we have with our delegates, which we'll appreciate greatly. Backing up quickly to the Judicial Center, I was able to meet with our judicial partners yesterday. So appreciate the time with the Sheriff's Office and staff and County Attorney and Community Corrections folks. That will be the first part of your work session on September 8th. So we'll still have some budget narrative in that conversation as well for Tuesday, September 8th at 8 a.m. That first hour roughly will be judicial partners and just touching base on some of what the board has requested in timeline from an operational standpoint. So there'll be operational plans brought back to you to go over and discuss as well. So just wanted to plug that back in before I forgot and moved on from it completely. A couple of weeks ago, Chris Howard and myself were able to have a conversation with the city council. So appreciate their time on the agenda just to have an open-ended conversation about some development efforts, some water storage efforts on the south end of the city of Waseca. So good progress continues to be made there, and received a subsequent response from the city and confirming their partnership in terms of wanting to be a cost participant in that venture as well. So we'll continue to work that out and work towards a solution utilizing some grant resources that are available for us to tap into as well. So that'll be a significant advantage if we're able to move that forward to the residents in and around Gator Lake in those 15-1 and 15-2 drainage systems as well. I think that's all I need to throw at you now, but I'm happy to address anything else if you have some questions.
Any questions for Michael? Go ahead.
The Justice Center next spring, has there been ongoing conversations with our concrete?
No, I don't think so, Commissioner Christopherson.
I know we were fairly confident because even if we break ground in April, we still have a couple months.
Yes.
Before we would need.
Yeah, we wouldn't need the preform panels here the day the dirt starts moving. Would definitely be some lag time built into that. So we'll have a defined answer to that question once, and that's really what Mr. Prestach Construction will seek to help us with, is essentially putting together a much more meticulous and refined request for qualifications to send out to some of our construction manager partners in the area and in the region. And part of what will be spelled in that is the pre-construction, the construction process, and part of that pre-construction planning will certainly be solidifying our name in a queue from one of the 3 vendors we know that are in our area. Fortunately, the window has come down some. We were hearing up to 10 months of lag a year ago when having this conversation. That's closed closer to 7 to 8 months, and we hope that trend will continue, of course, but we'll still want to secure a time or a place in that queue by very early fall of this year. So
we'll continue to move forward very quickly.
So didn't we at that time make board action to go with Wells Concrete? Is that starting over? Is that,
It would be starting up.
that's starting over?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the alternative would be to purchase them and try to store them somewhere over the winter, which is a great idea to do.
Halfway between.
Yes.
Anything else serious for Michael? Any other questions or comments for Michael?
Otherwise, I can touch on the HR announcements. One thing I'd put your attention to is just the, well, I guess I already talked through the finance manager piece a little bit. That is a new venture, new position as part of that transitional plan that you've heard a little bit about in our property and election services area. Staff did a great job getting through that primary process. Said you were out of here before 10:30 in the evenings, which was always a feat. And a great trial run moving into the bigger stage of November. So is positive and exciting for staff as well too. So you see a couple of new hires on the screen. One was a former employee, so happy to have Everman come back and join us. Samara as our educator and planner had a really great group of candidates in that educator planner position. So that was really positive to see as well. So excited to get those roles filled. And just as of yesterday, I didn't make it on for this publication, would have posted our property services manager role, I believe in the property and election services realm as well.
Question on that, is that an internal post first, or is it just a general post?
Both.
Okay.
Internal and external.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
That's educator planner. That is public health.
It is.
Okay. And that is replacing a resignation.
Correct.
Colin.
Colin Ayers.
Okay, yeah, she talked about that this morning.
Yeah. Good question.
And let's recognize the zeros and fives. That's always a good and important thing. Thanks to all the employees who hang with us and continue to be part of the Waseca County team, particularly Travis Wapshot, 10 years, and Joe Barconnect, 5 years. And everybody else on the list.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I think that's all I have.
All right. Then community development update. Tina, I know that you emailed it to us. Do you have anything you need to add to that?
I think the only thing I would add is I did work with Jim Kohler on researching that excess property around the landfill. I have some additional information.
Excellent.
Other than that,
Thanks for the team effort to help us understand that best we can. All right, commissioner reports. We didn't do commissioner reports last time because we needed to get out there and start frying burgers. Some of us needed to start frying burgers. The rest of us need to set up. So we do need to do them this time. Here's what I'm going to ask everybody to do. And I'm going to do my best to do it myself. Let's concentrate most of all on the last 2 weeks. If there is something that happened in the previous 2 weeks that we really should know about, please don't hesitate to bring that up either. But most of our discussion, let's concentrate on what's happened in the last couple of weeks here. And Commissioner Carter, can I start with you, or are you going to keep talking to Rusty down there and taking him to task? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, yeah, you better get going. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Tuesday, the 4th. We're going back to them.
Yes.
All right, 8 AM work session. We had board at 9:30. And then we
got the people here at the county. Wednesday, the 5th. Went to the city meeting. City council meeting at 7, that was about a year late. Chris Howard gave a presentation on that, Michael was there, as well as Commissioner Milbrat. Friday, what's that? Monday, the 10th, 9:30 here at the East Annex was the internship program. Fair board that night at 7 p.m. Tuesday, the 11th, 8:30 a.m. was the road tour, and 3 p.m. on the 11th was the virtual with John Christak. 12th, 8 a.m. Public Works, 6 p.m. Waseca County Historical Society. Friday, the 14th, 11 a.m. Board of Canvas. And that brings us to this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Christopherson.
Okay. Yeah, 5th of August. That was a Wednesday. I had Cannon River Watershed Joint Powers Board. Nothing too much there, I guess, changes, so we did talk about the word now, annual fee to be in.
Oh, dues.
Dues, there
There
you
you
go.
go.
Yeah, the word you remember.
That's all right. Sometimes we choke on that one.
Yeah. And I kind of, they've got plenty of balance. A few years ago, we had in a board action to cap that amount of money of the dues money.
Mhm.
And we're right at that now. We are at 3/4. They have pulled back the dues some, but they're leaving it at that 3/4 again this year. Because they're anticipating some costs that we have to pay for checking out all the lakes. We got to get more information on all the lakes.
Okay.
So they can step up in the priority categories.
Okay.
I am curious, I should talk with you more, Commissioner Walter, on how you guys handle some of those things that they're telling us that can't be paid for through grants. Because you're not charging any dues, right? Are we paying dues to the sewer watershed one?
No,
No,
but
so
we're set up differently. So there's there are no separate employees. The fiscal host is our SWCD. And so we aren't, we are employing the person to do this, but Waseca County is employing that person.
right, but then they're getting paid through administrative monies with grants, correct?
Yes, but that's not their only duty for Waseca County. They're doing other duties for Waseca County as well, as part of our land and water resources.
And that all seems a little odd to me, but not all.
It's a different structure, but we should talk about it.
Yeah. Okay, on the 6th, I had South Country Health Alliance. That's going pretty good. We are having quite a few changes there with aging staff. Got some retirements coming, so we'll be having some change there. And then that afternoon, we had Community Health Board Executive Committee. And on the 10th, I went to Richland City Council meeting. Just wanted to update them on where we're at in the Justice Center process. That went well. Okay, on the 11th, we had our road tour. Entire board went on our road tour. Got personnel committee on 12.
We did.
Got that. All right, so we have personnel there. That brings me to today. I also did say that Chris Howard and I spent, oh yeah, that was the morning of the 12th, because I had to leave to get the personnel. We met with Trapper, that owns the bowling alley in Richland we had our boots on and we were looking at water situation and we probably uncovered something that isn't gonna help him much. His actual water coming out of his basement is tapped into the sanitary system, which it's gonna benefit him by getting off of that, because when there gets to be pressure on the sanitary system, it's pushing back. Sure, it's not draining the water. Sure. So it's gonna cost him a little bit to cap that and get a pump in there, but
It'll fix it.
it'll actually help a lot because he'll get rid of the water that way and don't have that back pressure. So, it was worth the time that Chris spent there.
Thank you.
That's it. Thanks.
Commissioner Cressy.
All right, on the 4th was our work session and our board meeting. On the 6th of August, we have a Board of Adjustments and Planning Commission meeting that evening. And then on the 10th was the MBAC, 9:30 in the morning with our interns. I think there were 7 altogether, which was really nice, really good. And the 11th was the road tour with Mr. Kolar. And then on the 12th, we had Public Works that morning. The 13th, SWCD in the evening. And I gave out some material on that.
Thank you for doing that.
And then during the day was the extension drainage workshop out at Farm America. I did not make the morning one, but in the afternoon, and for those of you that weren't there, Chris Howard spoke. He was one of the last speakers. The speaker before that, or 2 of them before that, were from the University Extension, and this may, interest you. They are really pushing towards an early coordination with any drainage projects. This was the guy that was started it was with the DNR, and he was with the DNR a couple of years ago, and just lately he has joined up with the University Extension. And they mainly talked about the Red River Valley up north, that watershed. And that's a huge watershed that they've done lots of projects up there. But still, after doing all the projects, you still have flooding. And I think they're building another big waterway through that area up there now again. But millions of dollars. There's billions. Yeah.
It was with a B.
1.2 billion or something like
Crazy
that.
amounts, yeah.
Crazy amounts of dollars.
21 counties and
Yeah.
a foreign country involved.
Yeah, there's a lot of water. Anyway, I've spoken with a few different people, and to have that early coordination down here, I just real uncomfortable with it actually working that way, because we, with our drainage authority, we're set up really well. We have a good program now, and to start to involve somebody else, which may take projects a longer time to initiate and get going, and possibly with extra cost. And we don't know what the ROI would be on it. So something interesting, something to watch out for. I think I first heard about it years ago already, but yeah, and then that brings us to today.
Thank you, Commissioner Krause. Commissioner Murray.
Going back to August 3rd, I had Arts Council meeting. 4th, we had work session. On board meeting, national night out, and then we cooked the lunch for employees. On the 5th, I attended the city council meeting with Michael and Brian and Chris. On Thursday, I attended Mike Anderson from the BCA retirement party. Saturday 8th, I had coffee with the commissioners. Monday the 10th, we had our NBAC intern breakfast. Tuesday, we had the road tour, and it was primary election day. On Thursday the 13th, I had EDA task force with the city. And I didn't make the ditch meeting, but I attended the Congressman Finstead's meeting in Mankato that evening. And Friday the 14th, we had a meeting with Tom Sexton, Representative Tom Sexton, and we had Board of Canvas. And the 15th, I had coffee with the commissioners. And last night I had neighborhood service center meeting, and brings us to date. Just one update from our neighborhood service center meeting. They, in the month of July, they distributed 22,450 pounds of food. And they served over 934 adults and 722 households. 1 month. One of the things that keeps popping up is that individuals keep coming in and asking, well, why can't we take more food? And what they don't understand, they think this food is donated, and it's not donated. This is food that we purchase for them to have. So that protein has been the issue. The meat substance part has been the hard part. Company out of Rochester no longer provides that. We have to purchase that ourselves. And on a side note from Michael, it seems several of the committees that I'm on or meetings that I go to, everybody talks about a social media specialist. Everybody needs one to get information out. And that seems what everybody's lacking, both on the city and several meetings that I went to. And so it's just something to look at. I know we've talked about it before here to see what we can do to make sure that we get enough information out. Like Janesville has that. Can't remember what it's called. GoGov that they utilize to send information out. So I think our on group doesn't have anything like that. We have something. Just something to keep in mind now as we're in the budget season. That's good.
Thank you. Yeah, Janesville does have GoGov, and of course I downloaded the app, and so every time something goes on in Janesville, whether it's a water main break or national night out or whatever, I get a little notice, and it is super handy. And it has more functions on there that can tie into services too. So it will, you can check your water bill or whatever. It's pretty handy thing. All right. Yeah, back on the 4th, we had a work session, then we had a meeting, and then we got to feed people, which, my farm wife, grandma heart loves to feed people, so that was awesome fun. That evening, I attended Janesville Township meeting and got a chance to catch up there. On the 5th, I was in the Twin Cities for a SHAC leadership meeting with the Minnesota Department of Health support staff, planning for the rest of the year for SHAC as I finish out my term as chair there. Then in the afternoon, we had a joint leadership team meeting. Got a chance to look at feedback on some principles that we're putting together for possible legislative changes around public health and how it works here in Minnesota. On the 6th, I was in on the safe and secure courthouse grant discussion. That was interesting, and I learned more about that. Then we had a CHB executive committee meeting that afternoon. And that evening, Songs in the Park in Janesville and Night Out for Janesville, it was awesome. There was 550 people in the park. There was free hot dogs, there was free root beer floats, there was a food stand. It was awesome. Cowboy tacos, pork tacos, they were delicious. Thank you, Infinity Catering. Then, yeah, Friday, well, I went out to the golf course for more social stuff that night. That was fun. Saturday, the 8th, I got a chance to go with a couple friends, including one that serves on our library board, another that serves on our library board, over to Lee Center for a public library fundraiser. They are raising some funds to expand the footprint of their library in their current building because they've had some city functions move out. And they got a bunch of money already, like 130,000. And this fundraiser included a meal, silent auction, live auction, entertainment, the whole shebang. And I think they raised another 35,000. And they've got some folks willing to do some matching funds, but it sounds like what everybody was most excited was a new bathroom in the library and additional programming space, which is going to be great for them. And they're working with their city council to see how that'll happen. But it was a cool event. On the 10th, the internship program celebration was here in the morning. And then I had a shared governance and data relationships subgroup meeting for Minnesota Department of Health. That evening, library board was over in Lee Center. Got a chance to look and see some of the space that will get renovated over there with this project, and then went off to the City of Janesville City Council meeting. The 11th, we did the road tour, which was awesome. It's always great to see what we have been doing and what we're going to do and what's getting done right now. Had a call with Tim or some in Prairie stuff. Then we had a meeting of the building committee with Michael and Brian to talk to John Christash about what he might have to offer us, which was very helpful to have his expertise in the room. The 12th, personnel committee in the morning. And then I had a Mid-Prairie Finance Committee meeting in the afternoon. The 13th, I did get to spend some time. Well, first I sat in on the department head meeting. That was great. Gives a really nice overview of all the stuff that's going on, and there's a million things going on. Then I went off to the early coordination of drainage meeting at Farm America and spent some time there. And yes, I agree. There's some pretty big differences between a watershed that encompasses 21 counties and one country. And the size of the smaller watersheds that we deal with here. And I think that alone is a testament to why local control is so important and local input here when we do our watershed work and when we take care of our county ditches for our constituents, because the scope and scale is just so different. I got a chance to join Commissioner Milbreath over at a legislative roundtable with Congressman Finstead, Congressman Fischbach, and Congressman G.T. Thompson. And we had some good discussion there about the snap error rate penalties and what's happening with the Farm Bill. It was particularly around about rural banking and the progress of the Farm Bill. I think we got some good news in that Congressman Thompson is slated to chair the Reconciliation Committee for the Farm Bill, and had some good discussions about what he's considering going forward for that. So
And I think part of that, I think he didn't realize that that fell upon the counties,
Yes,
the cost factor, and that really is gonna play a major role as to how long they push this out for us.
yeah,
But the state's gonna have to have some teeth in this as well to make sure they're making progress.
absolutely, absolutely. I think it was, most of the room was service providers. There was some medical providers and bankers in the room. Four of us from, two from Blue Earth and two from Waseca, county commissioners got to be there. And I think our input was super valuable in that room. So hopefully that sways part of that conversation. Yeah, then SWCD on Thursday night. Friday, I spent some time in a meeting with public health, talking about Waseca County Tobacco Retailer Ordinance. Our ordinance here in Waseca County is woefully out of date. Thank you to Sheriff Doulis for attending that meeting as well. Our ordinance, as I said, is woefully out of date and needs to be updated. And so got a chance to do some more education and learning. And as we bring that forward, we're going to want to think about how our ordinance looks and how it might allow or less allow young people to have access to tobacco products, particularly flavored tobacco products. It's a one way or another, we have to redo this ordinance, and we don't regulate all the places that sell in the county. We only regulate about half of them. But we're gonna want to, we got to get within state code for one thing, and then we want to think about what we do to serve people who have this habit and want adults that want to buy it, and yet how we keep kids from getting at it, because the tobacco company does not make new customers of people who are over 21. They make new customers of people who are under 21. And as a former teacher, particularly health teacher, I have some biases there. I know I do. Yesterday, we had an community health advisory committee meeting in Waseca, and as Michael indicated earlier, we had a quick little meeting afterwards with some discussion around moving forward with how the CHB works and how much time they need to do certain functions and practice some of the new work that they're doing. And I think that was helpful, and it gave our directors from both counties some ideas about where they should be doing some work to help us get a vision for where our community health board joint powers is going. Yesterday afternoon, I had an interesting meeting with a guy from Minnesota Valley Action Council who does CSEP, senior community something. It has to do with serving folks who are over 55 with workforce services, providing education and help with resumes and those kind of things. And I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole right now, but we're going to want to talk about this, because right now the provider that provides this service for us isn't Minnesota Valley Action Council, even though Minnesota Action Valley Council was all the rest of our workforce stuff. And so we regularly have people from Waseca County going into the MVAC office here in town looking for these services, even though that's not the provider we have. I don't know how we ended up with the provider we have, but in order to get these services, our senior population has to be able to really quite proficiently get online, use QR codes, some of that kind of stuff, which I don't know how comfortable some of our seniors, maybe at 55 they are, maybe at 65 they're not, I don't know. But some interesting stuff we gotta talk about. And here we are today. Thanks for your patience with this. And this afternoon, we've got an inquiry. And there's a meeting for the Workforce Development Center that I'm not going to be at because I'm going to be at Prairie. There we are. Lots of moving pieces, as Representative Allen said. But part-time, full-time job. It's awesome. Anything else before we adjourn? If not, I would look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved by Krause.
Thank you, Commissioner Krause.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Christopherson. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.